And we are live.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Comedy Cellar Nightly. Here we are again.
Again.
Here we are again tonight. Who is joining us tonight? Estee Noam, the most feared woman in comedy and Booker of the Comedy Cellar. One of my old nemesis is Jordan Carlos.
I love you. What are you talking nemesis? I'll take it.
And, the lovely Emmy Blotnick. Not a nemesis at all. And then I don't really know Raanan.
Yeah, we never met. Yeah, Raanan.
Raanan.
Yeah. Nice to
I only
meet
said
you.
Raanan because Mushy Mike said Raanan.
No, either way works.
Raanan. What is that? Is that a Hebrew name?
Yeah, it's Hebrew. Yeah, but it's it's Raanan or Raanan. Either way, doesn't matter.
And you perform at the Cellar?
yeah. I just started. I'm new. I feel very out of place here.
I haven't seen you perform yet.
I started a couple
I
months.
told you about this guy many times.
Oh yes. You're the guy. She was saying your name wrong. That's why I don't remember. Yes,
sure.
I do.
She was saying Raanan. You're like, who? Oh, now I get it. Yeah.
Raanan is the Hebrew name.
Yeah. You can only really say it correctly if you have an Israeli accent. So
But I looked you up, and you have you're a writer as well. You have something out on Medium.
yeah, the place where you can publish yourself.
Well, but a lot of good writers write there.
Yeah.
And, you wrote about somebody who killed themselves.
Oh, that was just today. I posted. I was just trying to write. I'm writing short stories now. I'm trying to transition. A little, finally diversifying. And it was just a short story about a comedian who commits suicide, and a guy gives a eulogy, and it's all the comedians in the audience. And in the eulogy, they start listing the guy's credits. He was doing very well, and all the comedians in the audience start getting jealous, even though he's killed himself.
That's
Eulogy turned into a roast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That would be me. I'd be so envious of all the stuff he booked.
I think. Yeah.
Jordan. So how are you guys hanging in? What's your Emmy? What's your virus routine? Are you by yourself?
I mean, no, I'm with my fiance who's in the other room. He's playing video games right now, so I have I got the little headphones going, and this is I'm working on a 500-piece puzzle.
Wow.
And so far I have 3 pieces that connect. So we're doing great.
Right.
over here.
Start. Get the edges first.
Yeah. Did you know she?
Yes, you have to do the edges.
What?
Did you know Emmy was engaged?
I know that she's been with her boyfriend for a long time, but I thought I knew, but I wasn't sure that you are engaged.
He's a giant,
He's
right?
a chef.
Yeah, it's
He came down to the
it was
cellar.
mid-February.
He
Yeah,
came to the cellar.
he's
And he
he's
was
come a few times. He loves it there.
making our food, and we passed with flying
Yes.
colors.
Wait. He's a chef.
Yeah.
Giant chef.
Yeah.
Oh, where does he cook?
Well, we're in Greenpoint, and he cooks at a restaurant called Alameda, and then a bar called the Palace, and he's here full time for now. But
He's a nice guy.
we'll see.
If that
He's
restaurant
wonderful.
doesn't
He's
reopen,
amazing.
we need somebody to take over. We need a master chef to take over the entire food operation of the Comedy Cellar and the Olive Tree.
Oh my God, I bet that would be so fun. I think the hummus plate is hard to recreate, but everything else he could probably do.
Yeah, I mean, to avoid conflicts of interest, we wouldn't be able to give you any spots any longer. But
We sacrifice your career for him.
I passed on the chef as long as I have Emmy. Are you kidding?
Oh,
Oh,
that's so nice. Yeah.
Have you been writing, Emmy?
you
I've
right?
been doing a bit. It's been mostly a lot of just sort of trying to get through the day, I think. I don't know. I gotta get on Medium. I feel like
It's hard
I'm
to
not
get. It's
doing
very
that
selective.
much creative stuff.
Very selective to get. Medium it's like the New Yorker, and then Medium is right under that. So I can pull some strings though.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
But it gets a lot of eyeballs, right?
Gets a lot of what?
Gets a lot of eyeballs. Medium gets a lot of eyeballs, though. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just a YouTube of just essay writing. But you know,
But for some reason, it seems to have a standard. So I don't know. Like I don't know how. To
Sorry,
explain
I shouldn't have downplayed it. It's very hard to get on. I'm doing very well.
But it publishes anybody. Is that true?
yeah. It's just like YouTube.
All right. And so Jordan, what about you? Jordan, you're married with children. How's it going?
It's going. The pandemic notwithstanding, things are okay, man. You know, I'm here in my basement right now, hanging out.
How old are your kids?
7 and 3. So I've been homeschooling.
How's that? I'm doing it
Turns
too.
out I'm a terrible teacher, guys. I'm a horrible teacher.
Don't feel bad. Everybody's having a hard time with that.
I feel like that guy joke. I feel like Morgan Freeman from Lean on Me. I'm like in my kid's face all the time. I think my kids are getting dumber. They're getting dumber by the day because of me.
I'm having a hard time because I don't remember trigonometry at all.
Oh, you're doing trigonometry?
No. How does anybody do this?
How old are your kids?
He's 6.
Whoa! Your kid's doing trigonometry at 6?
It's a joke. It was a joke.
Makes more sense.
Please ask me how old my kid is. Please ask me how old my kid is.
I don't know what these schools are teaching.
I'm liking it actually. I don't mind the homeschooling.
You don't mind it?
No.
Okay. Maybe you just got the patience for it. I don't. I just take them out to the playground and then we do not the playground, but the park. And then we just, watch Paw Patrol all day. And then I kind of maybe lie about how they're, online
so
about how
it's
they're
very
doing.
laid back homeschooling.
Yes. Oh man, it's homeboy homeschooling. That's what it is.
Your 7-year-old is in 2nd grade?
My 7-year-old's in 1st grade. She's in 1st grade. She's doing great. They give her little assignments and it's all online and she'll do they do story time online and shit. I don't know. No, I think it's going well. I think
I'm going to tell you how to use this time to your advantage to homeschool, have less stress, and do way better for your 7-year-old.
Please, I'm all ears.
Spend 1/2 an hour reading. Is it the boy or girl?
It's a girl.
Spend 1/2 hour a day reading with her.
Okay.
And another 1/2 hour a day doing math facts or letting them do it on a day. That's
like work.
That is it. Do flashcards or whatever it is and reading. Everything else is bullshit. And not only that, the way they teach it, they gave my son this math game today where you gotta online flip the card and then and in 20 minutes he'll answer 5 problems.
Okay.
Because they put all this rigmarole around it, which does not enhance education at all. As I'm witnessing it, I'm realizing that tech is not the friend of education. That our kids would do better in a 1-room schoolhouse with a fucking blackboard. Those individual blackboards.
Yes.
Learning to read, write, and do arithmetic. Period. I think everything else is deleterious.
Did you learn that while teaching your kids?
Well, the truth is, I couldn't think of a simpler word.
You're pretty good at vocabulary to not value vocabulary in your homeschooling at all.
Everything else is bullshit. All right, but it's true. And I mean, if you just read a 1/2 hour with a 1st grader and do a 1/2 hour of math, I'm telling you, by the end of the year, they will be able to skip 2nd grade. I'm not kidding.
All right, man. I feel like you're giving me orders here. I'll do it.
Listen, it's a long story, but my kindergartner.
Yes.
But he's in 1st grade now. When he was in kindergarten, he has like a lot of boys. He's fine motor skill issues. It's hard for him to write and stuff like that. At least he's getting better now, but back then, and he's very bright. And I mean, it's objectively bright. He was talking at 8 months and all kinds of stuff. But he came home in kindergarten. And he said, "Daddy, I'm the stupidest one in the class or the dumbest one in the class." And he started crying. He said, "I can't do the worksheets and blah, blah, blah." And I saw that, what he was going through, and I saw the way he was being taught. So I sat with him, not a 1/2 an hour, 10 minutes a day.
Okay.
doing reading every day, 10 minutes a day, not more. And by the time he started first grade, he was the best reader in the class. He told me.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Teach my kids.
Teach
my kids every day.
But I'm saying is that you can manage. Well, I mean, listen.
Yeah.
Maybe you hate your kids, but an hour you can do, right? You can do an hour.
I don't hate them. The jury's out on which one I like more. I don't know.
And you know what?
Is that why you're in the basement? Or...
You always like one more than the other. It's true. You just like one more than the other. That's what it is.
Part of the reason it's so exasperating is because a lot of what we're forced to do with them is boring to them.
That's true.
And to us.
And to us. It's like, and I'm like, pay attention. And I can see them like, and I feel bad because this video is just, even the pace, if they read a story, my son had his poem they read to him, and the pace of the reading is so slow. And then she waits, I suppose, for him to look at the picture. Then she turns the page, and he's gone. He's gone, and he's not getting anything out of that. So,
are you both with your kids the whole time? Like, are you all basically with your kids the whole time, like no break?
Actually, I have to tell you something. So grandma lives around the corner, right? So we send them over there for about 3 or 4 hours a day. Nobody knows.
Great.
Nobody knows.
That's great. You sacrifice your grandma just to have some free time. That's great.
Mother.
Oh, your mom. Yeah, you sacrifice your mom just for,
I know. We told her that she knows the risks. She knows the risk. Doesn't care. She makes
and you know the risk and don't care either. That's the funny part.
Look, man, we tried to explain it. She does not care. She's like, liberate Brooklyn. That's what.
I'm with my kids the whole time, and every single night we go to bed at 8:30, and from 8:30 to we go to bed at 9:30, and from 9:30 to 10:30 we read Harry Potter. We're trying to make our way through all the books. We're on the 3rd book, hoping to get through all the books by the time this is over.
That sounds so productive and precious. I'm like pounding cookie dough into my face till 3.
And by the way, we read it on Kindle, so every time there's a big word, I push the button and I make sure I try to teach them what the word means.
Right, like deleterious.
Oh, that sounds highly deleterious. Yes.
So I'm enjoying that. From time to time, my daughter is a little annoying, but yeah, I don't mind the homeschooling and all that stuff. I don't mind it. And we have an au pair, and she got trapped here during the when the
trapped.
I mean, she wanted to go back to Mexico or whatever. Then she waited too long, and then she's stuck here. So we have the baby. So she helps watch the baby during the day. But I have the 2 kids, 8 and 6 most of the day.
Oh, well, that's cool, man. Do you have do you guys make it to like the parks and things like that? Are you getting out a little bit?
No, we have a backyard, but the weather hasn't been great.
Gotcha.
I'm very scared, and you really might be too, because multi-generational situations like with your mother.
Yes.
If they open the schools, that's really difficult to know how you're gonna protect your mother.
How
am I gonna protect my mother? Well, it's not my mother, it's my mother-in-law. So
there's then never mind.
My bad.
I was feeling bad for a second.
Fine. My mom's in Texas.
I went from protecting your mother to killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Mother-in-law.
Talk to me in the chat outside.
like Henny Youngman all of a sudden.
Yeah. It's all good, man.
What about you, Estee? How's it going for you?
Boring. No, it's okay, I guess. Yeah.
What happened today, Estee? I know Estee so well. Something happened.
No. We had a really special dinner. Izzy and I had a special dinner today. We had lobsters. Just to
fresh lobsters?
Huh?
Where'd you get fresh lobsters?
He went to the supermarket. They have fresh lobsters.
Oh, we're not allowed. I don't let anybody in my house go to the supermarket.
Well, he goes food shopping all the time. So he calls me and says they're on sale. I said, come on, let's do it. Just to make it more, something
live
fresh.
lobsters in boiling water.
Yep.
No, Steve.
Would they scream?
No, steamed it.
Oh, they die. They die more slowly.
Huh?
You die more slowly when you steam
Oh,
them.
stop it. I go like this, and before I know, they're on the plate. Where's my phone?
They're so good, and they scream at the end.
It is good. What are you doing, Estee? Oh,
Oh, that's the lobsters.
Oh, that
those
was
look
good.
great. How big are those? Are
Yes,
those a pound
that's
and a half? 2 pounds? What are those?
1.5
Oh, nice, nice, nice.
with asparagus. It was delicious.
That's great.
all right.
It's a very good food
So
for
that
right
was
now.
my
It's
highlight.
time-consuming.
Easy took over homeschooling my grandson because that's the only person he wants to do work with. He doesn't want to work with me. And the phonics part of the homework is a nightmare. The writing.
Oh, yeah.
The math is so easy. He does it it's so fast. It's crazy. He's really good at math. But reading and stuff like that is like pulling teeth.
Oh,
Mm.
it's
Oh, well.
tough. You learn what their strengths are and things like that.
All right. Where so you know, I've been very dark, like very dark, very moody, but I'm supercharged now by this Joe Biden Tara Reid thing. Is everybody following it?
Tara Reid, not
Not the one from American Pie.
Not American Pie.
A lot of people are making that
I read it
mistake.
you right now, Noam. I think.
No, that's not the same one.
The
Oh,
woman,
right. Go ahead.
the woman who is accusing Joe Biden of digital rape. Who knew there was such a thing as digital rape?
Digital rape.
Well, that's confusing because you mean one finger. I guess that sounds
Two
like
fingers.
two fingers. Sorry, digital kind of to me sounds like if someone got raped on this or something. Like digital.
That's virtual rape.
Virtual rape. Okay.
Okay, well,
I'm like, why
So
is
glad
it
it-
two fingers?
I'm gonna ask for the digital rape
Go ahead.
because I figured it can be good.
Oh,
So, and so you guys are not following this then?
I'm following it.
somewhat. I know that I know he's a handsy, gross motherfucker. So nothing surprises me. So you're saying this woman says he went way above and beyond.
But she said the line he said seems very accurate that he would say, like he did it and then she pushed him away and he said, "Come on, man, I thought you were into me." And the idea of him calling anyone
wow.
man seems like such a Joe Biden line. The idea
Very
he,
good.
you know what I mean? I feel like Joe Biden will say man to anyone.
Yeah.
It just seemed very accurate line.
So of course I don't like. There's nothing that I don't care about the country. I don't care about anything. I just care about being right. That's really all I care about in politics, which is actually why I tend to get things right because I'm really not a partisan. I really don't care.
Okay.
I mean, I have things that I agree with or disagree with on an intellectual level, but I have no. I'm not swayed at all by party politics. And when this story came out, the thing that worried me about it was that she had right at the outset 3 different people who say, "Yeah, she told me this story years ago."
Mhm.
And I said to somebody I was arguing with, "Do you know 3 people who you could call who would go on record with you, not for any money, to ruin a man's life, to talk to newspaper reporters, all totally lying about somebody raping somebody? Would you have 3 people you could call who would do that for you?" And you have to be sure that all 3 would say yes, because if one of them says no, now the cat's out of it. I said, that's very hard for me to believe.
Well,
So
it depends
I couldn't
on the
get very
person, but I might
conspiracy
have
theory.
those friends lined up. But go ahead.
I don't
No, but
actually
you-
think they all had this. I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I did think it happened most likely, but I don't think they all 3 had the same exact story or knew,
No, it
knew every
doesn't.
element of it.
Nor would we expect 3 people to remember everything exactly the same. As I say,
Right.
one of the things that we all have heard is like eyewitness testimony. They always get it wrong. They can always be contradicted because you remember things differently sometimes day to day. But the fact is that there was a story, and 3 people were ready to say to newspaper reporters, "Yeah, she told me about that." Maybe they got the details.
I'm remembering this because her mother went on Larry King, right?
Right, but since so then everybody trounced her. She's full of shit, blah blah blah, because they found she tweeted something positive about Biden. She loved Putin. There was all kinds of stuff that made no sense to me. But I was still haunted by the the three people. And then since then, the first shoe to drop was Alexander Cockburn, this famous left-wing journalist, had written a story in the 90s where he reported here that he says, I have multiple people in the Biden office complaining about him sexually harassing them while his wife's in the hospital. That didn't get much press. Then her mother turns up on Larry King saying, my daughter has a problem with a very prominent senator. We don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that still wasn't enough. And then finally, her neighbor, who was apparently a Biden supporter, came out recently and said, I have to admit, she told me this story 27 years ago. She was inconsolable. The more she talked, the more she cried. So now we're up to like 5 or 6 people, all who knew about this story prior to her coming forward, whenever it was. And then also I listened to her testimony, her podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's no less compelling than Blasey Ford was against Kavanaugh.
So what do you make of all of it?
Well, I mean, I always thought this kind of stuff is unfair. She could have been, well, let me say this. I've had to investigate stories in my life as a boss. And more often than more often than I'd like to say, when I investigated them, they turned out either not to be true or to be very, very unfair in the way they were presented to me. I'll give you one slight story about an employee one time who told me about something outrageous that a comedian said to her. And I actually suspended the comedian, to my regret. And then finally, I got a hold of the text messages between them. And they were extremely explicit, back and forth over a long period of time, So, and none of that context was given. And I have worse stories than that. Almost to the point where I began to think at some point that the people who are really traumatized are so, it's so traumatic for them and they're so shamed by it, they don't come forward. In other words, that there may be some weird sampling error where the people who are really living with that pain are less likely to actually come forward, and that the people who are angry or whatever, for whatever reason, or that just could be my experience. But anyway, so I think that this is, and I hope nothing is construed there to think that I don't think that men do the most horrible things, because I know for my wife's been harassed, and I mean I do know exactly what goes on. So I think it's totally unfair, and I always thought so, for somebody to be able to come forward 27 years later and hit you with something. And maybe the story wasn't true 27 years ago. Now, you're not supposed, until like 2 weeks ago, you weren't allowed to even say out loud, well, maybe she was lying. Now we kind of have a little green light to say, because it's a Democrat, right? Well, maybe she was lying 27 years ago. Maybe she was exaggerating. Maybe there's more to the story. Maybe they went out. Who the hell knows, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's fair, but I have a personal beef here, because the very people who were trying to explain this away, I said this on the last podcast, were the very people who were threatening me with violence, threatening my children online, threatening the Comedy Cellar, picketing, doing all this stuff to scare the shit out of me simply because Louis C.K. went on stage in the Comedy Cellar. And I mean, Estee remembers, I mean, it was a scary, scary time, both person. And those same people now, that same ideology, they're finding every way to explain away this Joe Biden thing. Believe all women is not believe all women. Women were ready to throw themselves in front of tanks about Kavanaugh. Never mind that, and you couldn't say this at the time, there was no evidence that she ever met him. She couldn't name the house. She couldn't name the party. The friend that she identified that would know about it said she didn't believe her. Her father didn't believe her. But she did seem like she was telling the truth. I'm not denying that.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people are denying that he did that. I think people are just kind of accepting Biden. I don't think everyone's just, I mean, they might be ignoring it, but I don't think people,
they're denying that he did it. Every single female running mate is saying, I believe Joe Biden.
You mean politicians?
Abrams said, I believe Joe Biden.
Yeah.
See, now, the more this snaps into focus for me. I remember there was that, and then Alyssa
Milano.
Yes, the cookies. She also said she believed Joe Biden, and that caused a furor and an uproar on Twitter.
Well, I think people just want to not have Trump be elected again, so it's created a lot of.
It's a bigger. it's a bigger issue because I'm in the boat of preferring anybody but Trump at this point. So it's there's no time for like the little stuff.
I guess I think it doesn't. I guess I agree.
First place, I want to hang out
tell
with
you why
that guy.
that's wrong, Emmy. I mean, I'm going to tell you why. I mean, I don't think it's wrong. I said this all along. I think that people who care about this stuff are lying. They vote. You should vote for policy. However, when it was Trump who was accused of stuff, saying that he could grab, famous, whatever it was, people who said on the other side of politics, who said exactly what Emmy's just said. Listen, I don't care about that stuff. I don't want to vote for Hillary.
I did not say I don't care.
Well, you said you don't have time.
She said I care nothing about
you said you don't have time for the little stuff.
It's an existential situation at this point.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
No, I'm saying that if
I do care. You can care about both.
No,
make it easy.
Hold on. You said you don't have time for the little stuff. And what I'm saying is if somebody on the right had said, listen, yeah, you're right, but I don't have time for the little stuff. I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton because I don't want abortion or whatever reason in their mind, that should have been okay too. They say, listen, my husband used to have a job working in a factory, and the job's or he has one and it's hanging by a thread, and I think it's going to leave, and I think that Trump will protect his job. So that's what I'm going to vote on. And yeah, maybe he did, and maybe he said something racist as well, but I'm not going to vote for her. And that was considered retrograde, despicable attitude. And now that attitude has been sanitized because we're righteous, we're on the left, and they say that, but we actually have the right to say that. So we're going to have this Biden guy. Go ahead.
I think hypocrisy, it is hypocritical, but we're, at least for people, in my opinion, we're in an existential crisis. Hypocrisy is just something you have to do at this point. I just think
they should have never said that shit to begin with.
Well, I think what you're pointing to, Noam, is the problem of the power elite, right? So both Trump and Biden are both very powerful people, and they do wild shit, as we've been kind of uncovering in these elections. You know, whether it's palling around with that, what's the guy that hung himself in the jail? Or
Jeffrey Epstein.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I'm sorry. This is my second dirty lemonade. Jeffrey Epstein. I'm trying to get through it, man. But it just
Jeffrey Epstein was a good hang.
It reveals that these powerful people do wild shit. You know what I mean? And like, and we have to like
at a certain level, they're all evil
about what they're doing and what they're not doing, and then we have to like hold our nose. If you're on the right or the left, I mean, listen, I have very religious friends in Texas that back Trump and hate the fact, you know, like they're always like, well, you know, King David was an awful motherfucker, but you know, he did some real good shit, and I think of Trump as King David. That's the line of reasoning I get.
Well, once you're going into biblical morals, you're really it's really quite the stretch. Back when everyone just like raped everyone, and it reminds me a lot of biblical characters who molested their children and killed whole towns.
I'm gonna tell you what it is.
Tell me what it is, bro.
I'm gonna tell you. Tell it like it is. This is the fact.
If you want one of these, they can make you one.
We would all like to have a president who was a fine moral character. It was nice to have Barack Obama, whatever you thought of his policies, because you knew this was a decent man. And we had a bunch of presidents who were decent men. And maybe, I said this the other day, maybe if the two candidates are pretty close, like a McCain and a Hillary and a Romney and some of the other side, you know, like, and you say that maybe that you could vote one or the other. But we have to live under the policies of these presidents, and the policies can have tremendous impact on our lives, on our children's lives, on people who are not even born yet. And that is more important than what somebody did or didn't do 25 years ago, period. And anybody who pretends that it's not is lying. And I always said that, but now the proof that they were lying is that now that they're finding out that Joe Biden very likely did something that he should be in jail for, they're like, well, whatever, I'm not voting for Trump. So but that's a crisis.
A lesser of two evils thing.
It's those. I mean, for those. Yeah, sorry.
Good.
No, I just that. Yeah, we've got two evil options, and there's no person right now. Like we can't. A third party person doesn't seem possible. So, you kind of just have to, yes,
and Democrat,
it's bigger than something.
Well, the Democrats have an option. Go ahead, Raanan.
I was just saying, Democrats have like, you know, used that believe all women for their own people. They pressured Al Franken to resign. They have stood by this.
No. The reason I say no to Al Franken because that they jettisoned Franken in order to clear the way to go after Roy Moore, but there was a Democrat that was replaced him. It was appointed. There was never any chance of losing the seat.
But either way, I mean, at this point, it's not like Trump hasn't been accused of that way worse than that.
No, not way worse.
20.
Not way worse.
Well, he's been accused of rape with his penis.
I have to look that up. He's accused of a lot.
He wasn't a senator when he did whatever he did.
Well, it's still rape. I don't know. I mean, also, like, I don't know. And also, Trump also bragged about it. At least
a whole bag of really bad behavior, terrible speaking and saying things that are just.
So here's the rape accusation.
I miss you guys. Can I just say that?
Not just under the umbrella of the goody two-shoe, but he's not. We are finding out that what he did, it was criminal.
Jean Carroll alleged in New York Magazine that Trump raped her in a department store dressing room. Two friends of Carroll confirmed to the magazine that Carroll had previously confided to them in regard to the incident. Trump denied ever meeting Carroll, although New York published a photo of them together.
You know what? He denied meeting it, but he also bragged about doing it at the same time.
He never bragged about doing it.
I'm joking. But that's the thing. Trump did brag about other things. At least Biden has the decency to try to cover his evil actions up.
Listen, you're going to see this play here. I never took.
It's not decent out of decency.
No, I'm joking.
Never took the pussy
I think that the Democrats
He's a true gentleman.
come up with another candidate at the convention. For some reason, I don't think that Biden's gonna stick.
I'm fine with that as long as, you know, but if it's at the end of the day, if it's between him and Trump, you know, I'm going to vote, you know, we've been pushed so far back at this point that a rapey Democratic centrist is progress.
Yeah.
It's so true.
You know what? I came on here to get cheered up. No, you know that.
The greatest country in the world.
But this is the truth. Let's say it wasn't Trump. Let's say it was Ted Cruz.
Oh my God! What?
And hold on. And he was clean as a whistle. They still would vote for Biden.
They've all followed
Ted
Trump.
Cruz is such a slime ball. I mean, he's
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz is like the gooberiest, like worst of that bunch.
Right, but I'm making the point that he had no accusation of any kind of criminal or immoral act. You just really disagree with his politics. You was still voting for Biden.
It's more than that. His own children don't like him. Ted Cruz, like, do you ever see him try to kiss his child?
I think you understand my point. My point is that
no, I understand your point.
There's no way you're going to vote for somebody who's going to overturn Roe versus Wade or whatever it is your thing is. Even if Joe Biden might have raped somebody, you're just not going.
I'm also a Texan. He's from my home state, and he's kind of he's a fake ass cowboy. He's not.
All right.
But I also think this situation right now is more existential than ever before. I think people, you know, I'm of the opinion that with the pandemic and Trump is basically maximizing the amount of people who are dying. So at this point, it is.
How is Trump led to anybody dying?
I mean, that's a whole. I don't know. I mean, that's a whole thing. I don't know if we have time. I mean.
What key decision has led to people dying that Trump made?
You know, I feel like ignoring it for like 2 months, and I feel like that made a big deal. I feel like firing people involved in the pandemic response and then having a bad response to the pandemic. I feel like that's a cause and effect.
I mean, I don't like that. I don't like that they played it down, but you know, so did Fauci. So you know, the medical people were playing it down too. So he's following. He was.
World Health Organization.
Hold on. So he was parroting stuff that was being said, but by the time it was already clear that this was serious, it was our local government, our governor and our mayor, who didn't respond to it. New York kept its schools open, kept its restaurants open, kept its
but states were also at that point looking for some kind of national guidance, and the national guidance we're having.
Come on, let's be honest here. Ohio had shut down. San Francisco was shutting down. Washington was shut down. You had states with 5, 10, 15 cases that were shutting down. New York was in like at 400. And the mayor was still advising people, don't worry about it, go out. Don't. I mean,
I'm not going to argue that the mayor's not an idiot.
The New York Times, hold on, Estee. The New York Times wrote an article. You can look it up, and it said that if Cuomo had shut down the state a week or two earlier, 50 to 80% of the people who died would be alive. 50 to 80%. They have no accusation like that about Trump. So if you want to say that Trump did some stuff wrong, I agree with you, and maybe some of it led to lives. But let's be fair. There is not just Trump. Our local leaders in New York completely fucked this up.
Trump was getting intelligence reports that the heads of states weren't all getting. He had way more information from the last 2 months. Of course, he got so many intelligence.
That's
reports.
all not true. When the CDC was already recommending groups of no more than 50, De Blasio or Cuomo, whichever one it was, limited it to 500 in New York.
Well, I disagree politely to keep my job, but this is like a game show.
There is no job. Don't worry. There's no job.
That's true. This is like a game show. Say your beliefs or try to keep your job. Which one? But
you should read the Times article about the New York thing.
I've read every article.
You know the one I'm referring to?
I've read the article about Cuomo. Yes, but I also think, even Trump now is, promoting, stuff that is killing people.
Okay, how about Pelosi taking a stroll in Chinatown?
Yeah, they were all down.
There's no danger. It's safe.
And look, Sweden.
You've got to be fair.
Shut down. Listen, I thought that Trump
put everything in one basket.
I thought that Trump was going to really take a beating because we were going to run out of ventilators, and I said, well, that's really his fault. Somebody should have checked on those ventilators, but he lucked out on that. It didn't happen. And that was the real thing everybody was talking about. Then there's the masks. That matters. But the Obama didn't replenish them. Trump didn't replenish them. I'm going to put that on him. But the thing is, what's amazing is that they were telling us not to wear masks anyway.
But they don't know all the information right away. You can't you don't know every.
In Asia, they were wearing masks.
But I think we should all be honest about public health and pandemics, right? I remember, I'll take you back to a simpler time 6 months ago when, if you saw someone in a mask, you thought that they were a hypochondriac.
That's
thought that they were that they had issues. I thought that was just like an Asian thing that was done in China.
Careful. Okay.
And not done in America. So it's very hard, to make this sea change and to convince not only people, the rank and file, but even the leadership, be it Trump, be it Cuomo, be it whoever, that you need to take these drastic measures. And it's weird to go out in the street in a mask now. You know what I mean? It just is.
Dude, that would all be well and good if Ohio hadn't shut down almost a week before New York.
Okay, Dworman is a very smart guy. You know what I mean? But you've got 50 states. Not all of them are going to be. You saw DeSantis, he didn't even know how to put his mask on.
But Trump was also, even after that, he wasn't pressuring states to close down, and Florida stayed open. He could have told them, and he didn't.
He can't order them.
Once you're talking about Cuomo for a week, where information, but Trump continued. He also said liberate states a couple days, a week ago.
No. Listen, hold on. I agree with you.
To the garden store, man.
I agree with you about those things that you're saying and how inappropriate they are for the president to be saying. But I don't agree with you is that if you were to go back in time, like Back to the Future, and eliminate all those things, I don't see a lot of lives being saved. Maybe some.
Well, I think the other thing was,
I do say, if Cuomo had shut down the state when Ohio did,
right,
we're talking about tens of thousands of lives being saved. That is the clear. That's the only time that's you know what? This guy really fucked up. Yeah, Trump shouldn't say this, that. Maybe somebody poisoned himself with bleach. That's his fault. I get it. But the big numbers of lives. If you look at every European country has curves similar to ours. As a matter of fact, America is not even the worst. So absence of Trump is absolutely not any indication that makes that big a difference?
I think also the big issue outside of that was that when they did the travel ban or whatever to China, when the one thing that appealed to him out of all this was just like the idea of banning something, that was time to give you time to actually build up testing and start working on those kind of things. And that's something you do at a national level. And he didn't do that.
Well,
at a certain point, he did not authorize companies to start manufacturing that stuff. Even after it hit, he's been basically creating obstacles every step of the way. So it's not,
I don't agree with you. I mean, I read a lot about that. I read it with an open mind. It really seems like, I mean, it depends what you want from the guy. Do you want him to follow science or not follow science? Because again, I mean, which way? It seems to me that the medical experts were telling him what to do when it came to testing. The CDC had a defective test. You read about that, right?
Yeah.
And the bureaucracy is totally fine. And I had made the analogy. It seems outrageous, but I think it's true that, you can't blame Reagan when the space shuttle blew up, meaning that when something is so in the realm of science and doctors and they fuck it up and you're going to say, well, you see Trump. I don't think blame Reagan. I don't think a judicious person is going to be able to stand behind that.
But you can blame Reagan for ignoring the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah, but we're not talking about it. I'm making maybe yes, maybe no. I'm saying that the testing seems to me, everything I've read is not something. That's why I said the ventilators, stocking things. These are things which are within the common sense and the skill set kind of a president. Being able to judge whether our testing is proper or not, he's going to have to rely on Fauci, Birx, and the CDC. And if you read those Red Dawn emails that were in the Times about people complaining, they were very smart emails. They were complaining about the CDC, not Trump. They never complained about Trump. They said the CDC is getting this wrong. The CDC is getting this wrong. Now imagine the headlines if Trump had ignored the CDC.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you can look at little details from different things, but what about liberate Minnesota?
The big picture, actually.
What about liberate Minnesota? What is that? I mean,
I said that's wrong. He shouldn't.
But that was like a week ago. Like that was like
anybody died because of it. But it's ridiculous that he says.
Well, I mean, that's yet to be seen. We don't know if somebody's going to die from it.
I said there may be some people who will die.
I guess there's a difference between Cuomo when he should have done something a week ago to someone still to this day, like causing people to basically be an obstacle in every step, saying liberate, causing contention, causing not bringing people together, bad mouthing people. All that is still happening today.
Well, not bringing people together. If you had said that at the time, I wouldn't even have disagreed with you. I think that's the worst thing about him is that he's been so divisive. It's the first crisis of my life that the country didn't come together.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine anyone, unless you're a diehard Trump supporter, I can't imagine anyone feeling comfort with him in charge. I just can't imagine that.
Agreed to everything. But the only thing I think is quite unfair is to hang a big number, to pretend that a big number of people would be alive if not for Trump. I don't think that holds up. Some people, but I think a big number of people would be alive. Two things. If they hadn't told us, I read an article today that said that masks alone may be able to bring the R0 number below 1, which means that if it's below 1, it'll extinguish. Masks alone might be able to do that. And the people who told us not to wear masks, the people who encouraged us to go out, and the people who did not close down New York and New Jersey, because without New York and New Jersey, the United States has not had a very bad hit with this. That's 1/3. I mean, 1/3 or between 1/3 and 1/2 of all the cases are all in our area here, all of them. And that's where all the deaths are coming from. And without that, we'd be like Japan or Korea without all those deaths.
Well, it's interesting to note. I mean, I would think about one thing, which is that, I look back at I was watching this documentary about the 1918 pandemic of the Spanish flu. And at the time, Woodrow Wilson took a lot of the blame for whatever different cities or states, what their response was. And he, even though he guided us through World War I, ended up losing in 1920. He was only a one-term president. He ended up losing in 1920 to Calvin Coolidge. So it's like, it's a wonder. What I'm trying to say is, no matter what happens, whoever's on watch, you'll be stamped.
I
want to show you guys something. Do you mind if I show you something? Let me see if I can get this to work. So I
just want to say the economy is something that every president takes credit for, even though a lot of times it didn't have as much to do with the president.
It has nothing to do with the president.
but pandemic response is all
What is this?
something to do with the president, you know?
Okay, this is a graphic.
Jesus Christ.
This is a graphic.
No, most people are just watching The Office over again, you know?
Look at this. This is a
Did you
graphic.
make this?
These curves up here, the circled in red.
What is this?
Jordan, take a drink. These circled in red. These are UK, Spain. These are all these very high curves. This is, I don't even know. I guess these are cases.
Italy.
Yeah. These nations down here, these
Yes.
are the ones that are way, way, way lower. And I don't know if this is even per capita. Anyway, these are not the nations that don't have Trump. These are the nations that wear masks.
Well, also to that, Trump like shipped like thousands and thousands of masks to China in the middle, like right before this all hit.
Yeah.
Just, to support. I feel like that's an evidence against Trump.
Well, except that everybody was saying we don't need them. The doctors said not to wear them. So I don't know. Listen, I'm not. I see people. This happens all the time. I'm not here to say that Trump. There's a curve. I'm not here to say he's at 0 and you're telling me he's at 100 that he hasn't done anything wrong or there's nothing decision. I'm just saying that at the point where you want to say if it wasn't for him, tens of thousands of people will be alive. I'd say that doesn't bear scrutiny. Just zooming in on the decisions that he made, and certainly when you zoom out to the way every other country in the Western world has fared, they have good leaders and bad leaders all through them, and they have different responses, including Sweden, where they're just letting it run, and they're not doing any better than we are. So it's like, I just can't.
Well,
I wouldn't be honest to say I think it's Trump. Huh?
But it's cultural. It's also how you respond. So our country responds like anytime that there's a disaster, let's say there's a hurricane or anything, an earthquake, we respond by hoarding, going to the grocery store, buying everything we fucking
That's
can.
what I did. Yeah.
Right? Exactly. That's all we consume. We're a consumer culture. We consume. That's what we do. If you're in like Scandinavia, they seem to be very organized, right? About what they're doing. They've got their universal health care. They kind of like figure it out. That's their deal. With
but
us,
their curves still look like ours.
I'm just telling you this.
Yeah.
In America, we like to also point fingers, and then it becomes like this tableau and this, backdrop for all of our other problems, all of our other systemic problems come into high relief. We have to have all these fucking conversations about it, and that's what it is. And then we point at the leadership when we get really unhappy, and like that is the same thing. It bears itself out every time. I think what you're explaining, and I understand your point, is that there are countries that are doing far worse than us, even though they don't have Trump in. I got that completely. But I think
also under account that we, as civilians here, have some responsibility also. People are still gathering, and with everything that we know. In Florida, in the spring break on the beach, the partying and one to the other. People also travel. My people, I feel really bad. The big funeral last night, you have over thousands of people. I mean, we have to take some responsibility as well. And because we're so condensed and so millions of people in New York area, the hit is so much harder.
Do you guys want to see a little more science? Is anybody interested in more science?
I always preach that.
Yes. What other charts?
oh my God.
This is a chart. Sorry, Jordan. I maybe we're seeing understanding now why you're having trouble homeschooling, but just watch paper.
Yeah, I'm done with school.
This is a chart here.
What are you doing?
On this axis is adherence. It's about masks. This is if 20% people wear masks, 40%, 100%, whatever. And this is the quality of the mask, 80% efficiency. So where it begins to turn blue, this is where the R0 number, meaning every person starts passing it to fewer than one person. So it winds down to 0. So according to this study, that at a pretty modest number of like 70% adherence and efficiency of masks somewhere in the middle, the R0 number starts to go below 1. And which implies to me that if we just all had worn masks from day one, we'd be fine. And it's the one thing they told us not to do. and it's stunning.
Actually,
Well, they told us not to do that, so healthcare workers.
No,
would have more masks.
no, that's
before.
no, that's a what do you call it? They're rewriting history there. I read a lot. I've heard that they really were saying for medical reasons not to wear it. They were, and because and I spoke
too. And I said bullshit.
Not only that, it would be unethical for a doctor to ever say to someone, let's say, I have a mask.
But it wasn't rewriting history. I heard it. I listened to an interview with an epidemiologist before this, like just in February, saying that, you shouldn't get masks just because there's going to be an under.
No, they said that the mask do nothing. It doesn't protect you. But they didn't put.
Some people said that too. You're right, but
yeah, but they didn't say, they didn't put the mirror on that picture and say that you will not affect somebody else. That you're not going to get infected. Mm-hmm. So they were not encouraging mask at all.
Well, I do think you learn more as it goes on, but I also think they were trying to keep healthcare workers from having all the masks, which they did run out of masks.
Yeah.
And it was a huge problem. They were wearing garbage bags in New York hospitals.
So now they know that you can put plain.
Yeah, I'm going to read from the World Health Organization. Quote from the World Health Organization. There is currently no evidence that wearing a mask, whether medical or otherwise, by a healthy person in a wider community setting, including your risk community, can prevent them from infection with respiratory viruses. Now, if you're telling me that on a world level, they were saying this, lying to people, killing people. I mean, I want my healthcare workers to survive, but if I have 10 masks in my house and they're telling me not to wear them and I get sick and die, what the fuck is that? So no.
I assume that what happened is they had more tests with Corona and realized the importance of wearing masks after it, since Corona is a new virus.
But in Asia, they seem to do it. But whatever it is, the point is that, listen, how it's natural among humans to be very forgiving of the mistakes of the people we feel kindly towards, and just want to fucking ream the guy that we don't like from his mistakes. So if it were the opposite, and Trump had been telling everybody not to wear masks, and so he'd say, this fucking guy told us not to wear masks, and he'd be like, yeah, but that's what they told me. But
I think
it takes a certain fairness of spirit, and it's hard to be able to zoom out and say, wait a second,
but I think
I hate the guy. Just because I hate the guy doesn't mean every single thing he might have done wrong was his fault,
But I think you're discounting his influence because, it's
not discounting anything.
No, well, just wait. Remember, everybody asked Trump when he was going to wear a mask, if he'd ever wear a mask. He said, I'm not going to wear a mask. Mike Pence just went to the Mayo Clinic and flouted their regulations about wearing masks.
That's
he didn't
outrage.
All right, now that was outrageous to people in the. Oh,
you have Hitler behind you.
Oh shit! I'm sorry.
Oh my god!
Meant to put this on. Go ahead, Jordan.
All right. Oh wow! I kindly listened to your fucking.
You should have. Did you not realize? Did you actually not realize that?
I kind of.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
It was so funny to have you arguing for Trump with Hitler. Just
that was the joke.
I was listening to this. You were going on with the shit that was keeping the Hindenburg up. So listen to me, all right? I'm just saying this. I feel like you can't discredit the fact that people watch for cues from the president. So that is why people. There's been more calls about people ingesting bleach, and those people in Arizona. That took whatever it's called.
Hydrochloroxide.
Yes.
Hydrochloroquine.
They took that a month ago and died, this couple. And it barely made a bleep in the headlines. People listen to him. People love him. And so if he suggests something, we can't just
so let me
throw our hands in the air and say oh, it doesn't matter. He was kidding.
Based on the
Jordan. So let me push back on that. And I do agree that he shouldn't say this stuff. I think the ingesting bleach is actually
the power of his words.
I think the ingesting bleach thing was actually discredited, but let me talk about the hydrochloroquine.
Wait, discredited?
That it turned out to be actually not true. That it wasn't because of.
But
Trump.
also, I feel like you're bringing up stuff where we didn't have all the information right away, and then we learn information later, and you're giving examples of liberals or other people or CDC saying the wrong things before all the information. But then the important thing is that they have information. What?
I'm sorry. When you come up with a statement that he killed all those thousands of people without putting the blame on either Cuomo or the home World what is it, the World Health Organization, or no, what's the name, whatever. You cannot, you pick and choose, and you put everything on him. We're not clearing him, but you also have to admit that Cuomo had to do a lot of it. De Blasio, Nancy. I mean, when she was walking through Chinatown, come on, she was parading there. Mm-hmm. Let's have a parade. She said,
can I say something?
You have to be fair.
So this is the thing. Yeah. Trump shouldn't say those things. And although let's get the bleach thing aside for a second, because aside from anything else, he actually, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the hydrochloroquine thing. So yes, he shouldn't have said that. And then somebody did try to drink their fish tank stuff.
Yes.
Afterwards. But I also heard multiple emergency room doctors on TV telling that they were using hydrochloroquine themselves, the doctors themselves. I also have a friend who was diagnosed with COVID who was prescribed hydrochloroquine by the doctors. So what I'm saying is that, even without Trump saying it, we'd all heard about hydrochloroquine. We all heard doctors saying they were taking it. We all knew that they were giving it to people in the hospital. In New York, Governor Cuomo said he was optimistic about it. They're giving it to people in New York. So you could take all that and add to it that the president said something, and then you could say, and maybe it was the president that caused these people to ingest the fish tank. Hold on. But it could also have been the thousands of other references to hydrochloroquine that we've heard from doctors and medical people and in the news and studies that cause these people to do this stupid thing. I don't think you can make the case unless they tell you. And even then, it's because the president said it, because it was everywhere. By the time Raanan, had you not heard of hydrochloroquine before President Trump said that?
Yeah, I'd heard of it, but I also think it's not about.
What did you heard of it? What did you heard?
I never heard of it.
I heard of it that was a possibility of helping, but it's also
it becomes the news.
Jordan, wait, I'll tell you what you heard. You tell me if I'm wrong. You heard that there was a study in France.
No, I did not.
Not you. It's right on. That 30 out of 35 people they gave it to recovered. You heard doctors saying they were giving it to people in the emergency.
But the point was the president was promoting it without these tests being peer reviewed. These tests had not been peer reviewed or FDA regulated to the point where they were they should have been promoted on a press conference. That's the point.
Yes, that's true. But what I'm saying is
something that was not.
Are you really ready to dismiss the fact that so many medical people were doing the same thing? Not by saying it, by actually taking it themselves and telling us.
There's a difference between people trying it and the president telling everyone that this should be seen as something that's already been tested and approved.
Let me put it to you
Everyone has to try stuff, in small experiments, but it's different than him.
If I get sick, I would want to take the hydrochloroquine, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Not because anything President Trump said, but because I know so many doctors take it. That's and that would be the reason. I think we all would. I think you would.
Well, actually, tests have come out saying that it's not.
Those tests. And that's another. You stepped right into my trap. Because, by the way,
why are you setting traps?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because that test that you just referred to, I know the test. First of all, there's other problems with it, but was that test peer reviewed? It wasn't, was it? That's one of the things every story about that test says this has not been peer reviewed. But it's classic, and I hear it all the time, that we refer to something as not being peer reviewed when it's good weapon, and we ignore it when it's good, when it's convenient too. So Trump is an asshole for using a test that was not peer reviewed and touting it. Now there's a new test that came out, also not peer reviewed, and it shows that hydrochloroquine doesn't work. And I'm saying if you don't want to use peer reviewed, non-peer reviewed tests, don't mention any of them.
Okay, I think the point is to not.
Anecdotally, I heard that it causes actually arrhythmia. Which
no.
Can be,
I will tell you the chloroquine if you want to know.
And then also, I was listening to a podcast called The Daily from the failing New York Times a couple days ago, and they were talking about the first case in Washington D.C. where they gave a man an anti-inflammatory. It was highly experimental, but an anti-inflammatory that brought him back, because that's the problem, right? It's the inflammation in the lungs, and you literally like drown from your own mucosis. It's terrible. But anyway, that's the short end of the stick with COVID. So I want that anti-inflammatory. I wouldn't want the hydrochloroquine.
Okay, I'm not a scientist, but I do know that when Trump promoted that, Dr. Fauci right then said we should not be promoting this.
Yeah.
He went against Dr. Fauci. So I'm just going to believe Dr. Fauci.
No, I said he shouldn't have promoted it. I'm saying that I'm not convinced that because Trump said that Trump said he was he says maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. I feel good about it. That's almost verbatim. He didn't say it worse. He says maybe it won't, but I feel good about it. And Fauci says we should wait until the thing. But I'm saying that was, to me, that was like a drop in the bucket compared to prominent expert doctors saying they were taking it. But here's, just to be clear about the hydrochloroquine, there's a lot of factors here that we don't. There's dosage. Listen, the drug is used all the time. Somebody in my family uses it, so it's not like the most deadly drug. At certain doses, it may cause heart problems.
Right.
They don't know how much the dose should be, but and also they don't, it's not clear about the study, but with a lot of these things, it depends on giving it very early in the course of the disease, before the viral load is too high. So it's totally conceivable, just like global warming leads to snowstorms, it's totally conceivable that at later cases, when people are sick, the virus neither helps them and might hasten their health problems because they're weakened. Whereas early in the disease, when they're relatively healthy and the viral load is low, then it might prove to be effective. So we just don't know. I don't know. But the fact is, they're still, despite this study that we've seen, they're still giving it out in hospitals. So
let me ask you this though.
That to me says something.
What do you think? What do you all think of? I don't know if you noticed this or not, but a lot of people were going out to the beach this weekend because it was pretty weather and stuff like that. What do you think of people going out fraternizing despite the lockdowns? Do you think that it's kind of like blown out of proportion, and that people can reasonably and responsibly keep social distance from each other? Or do you think we need, because we don't have a vaccine, we still need to be in our houses?
Exactly.
I think that I think that if young, healthy people in groups of their own, if they're not going home to homes with older people, if they actually get it and develop immunity in the long run, that's actually a good thing. Tyler Cowen said the other day that there's recent evidence that transmission outside is much less possible or much less likely than we thought, and indoors it's more likely than we thought. But so that's one side of it. The other side is I wish everybody would just obey the guidelines that are handed down to us, because people are not smart enough to judge for themselves, you know.
What do you think where do you think public health gives way to like, you know, personal responsibility?
Well, when your lack of personal responsibility can kill me, it gives away pretty early. Honestly, like whatever you do with your life is your life, but whenever your decision of personal responsibility can kill other people, no, you have to answer to us.
Okay, so you're saying stay in the house.
I mean, it's, you know, people are losing their freedom, but this is a situation where you have to. It's not,
it's not indefinite.
Do you feel it's an inconvenience, or there's people out there, like, you know, I think that they definitely go after the yahoos when they're like taping these protests. Do you feel that these people?
I think these protests are still a very small percentage of the country. I think most people are actually following the quarantine. So it's not surprising to me that there's a couple hundred morons in different towns. It'd be weird if there wasn't that. So I actually think the numbers are pretty good. Most people are following it, you know?
I do. I gotta admit, I more and more frequently I'm forgetting to like wash my hands. I'm forgetting to like put on the hand sanitizer. I don't know about you guys, but like in the first few weeks, man, I was hardcore.
I'm forgetting not to cough in my grandmother's mouth like twice a week. It's crazy.
Jordan, are you leaving the house?
Every once in a while, I leave the house. I'll leave the house.
That's when you need to wash your hands. You don't need to wash your hands when you wake up in the morning.
My children go to the park though. My children go to the park. I just want to make sure that, like, you know, I'm staying okay. They're trying to kill me. You understand, Noam?
Yeah.
Little by little. take over.
Wear a mask.
I told you I wear a mask.
Yeah, but I mean,
Indoors,
maybe,
I'm
you know
wearing
what? Keep your kids home.
You know what? I gotta get rid of my kids. Thank you.
Do you
Noam.
let them go to playgrounds or just parks?
They don't. No, there's no playgrounds open anymore.
Well, I think parks are okay for the most
Parks
part.
are
I guess they're
okay.
touching some things, but
There's a big, huge, wide open park.
are you in New York?
I am. I live in Bay Ridge. I live near like Chris Stefano and Giannis Papas. So I sometimes see those guys out and about, but it's crazy, man. So I mean, I'm wondering what that moment is. If it's May 15th, will people act responsibly, or will we?
She just
Is there just going to be like a huge spike?
Estee.
Hi. Yes. Sorry.
You can press Control A to mute.
Okay.
All right. Well, I have to go read Harry Potter. I'm reading Prisoner of Azkaban, and I think that's supposed to be the best one.
That's the first one.
No, that's the third one.
Oh, that's the third one. Yeah, it's the best movie, Alfonso Cuarón. Yeah.
My kids are into it.
True. Well, I love how we've pivoted to Harry Potter. That's cool.
And I hope you understand. I think I agree with you on every other thing you said about the president, which I put all under the category of his vulgar manner, unpresidential. You know, all those words. I agree with you 1,000% about that. I think that the actual death count people are trying to hang around his neck is not. I haven't been able to. I can't.
I agree with the part that you agree with me on.
Oh,
I'm joking. I know.
Go back and review that New York Times article discussing New York, and you'll notice a tremendous absence of any Trump.
No, you're right. You're right. It's important to not try to see both sides. I do appreciate having.
I mean, just so you know, just because you don't know me, but everybody's heard this ad nauseam already. I had my kids out of school 2 weeks early. I was screaming at the school board. I closed the club down a couple of days earlier. I mean, I could not believe what was going on in New York. I was writing emails. I was fighting with the superintendent of the schools. Because it was so apparent to me that they were waiting too long. I said, why are you waiting until one of the kids actually has this? By the time we know he has it, it's a week or something after he's been passing it. So why don't you close down now? And they said, well, the state won't let us. The state won't let us. The state won't let us. And
you know what?
I can't blame Trump for that.
Fucked up.
No, you do actually highlight. I have to say, you highlight some really interesting things, which are that you can't. There's a thing in America, like American exceptionalism and American like essentialism, where we think we won't get sick, right? It's not going to happen to us, and then it does happen to us. And guess what? Our fucking pants are down. The stock room is out of masks. All this shit, I think that's also a thing. That's
upsetting.
And I think Cuomo did fuck up, but I think it's also a testament to like how much human warmth or empathy goes a long way. Because even though he fucked up, now that he does seem so like comforting and empathetic, and Trump doesn't, it is easier to it is just.
I like him.
It's just
like
naturally
Cuomo.
easier to look past it.
I go on record. I do not.
No.
Noam and I part ways big time when it comes to
Estee, if Trump had Cuomo's bedside manner, he'd be at 70% approval now.
Yeah,
at least.
People
would forgive his mistakes.
I mean, that's what's so traumatizing. I mean, you look for the president for some kind of like, paternal kind of comfort in these situations, and we've been robbed of that in a way that we've never been robbed of that before.
Ever.
Yeah, so we've been robbed of the comfort you normally get, which has made this such a more traumatizing.
I'll give you ammunition. The fucking guy today says that he's going to withhold aid from some states if they don't stop sanctuary cities.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's openly political and.
And the reason it's additionally crazy on top of is that it's the pattern with him, and I'll predict this. He will back off that because he always backs off these outrageous things, and the stink just stays behind. He doesn't get anything for it. It's like, you can't penalize states and have people die in some city because you don't like sanctuary cities. That's what courts are for. If sanctuary cities are illegal, the courts will have to decide that. They might be illegal, but that's not for Trump to say.
I'm going to say one last thing, which is the kind of leadership I think we need. And I didn't agree with him, obviously, about everything, but a lot of stuff I did. Lyndon Johnson. In 1965, the city of New Orleans flooded. And Lyndon Johnson was in a boat with a flashlight and a bullhorn, And
Broad.
the story goes, said, your president is here.
I thought you were going to say he was fishing somewhere else. He didn't know about it at all.
But just think about that. You know?
Yeah. Well, look, George W. Bush was pretty good after 9/11.
I'm saying this man was in a boat and was like, fuck it, your president is here. I think there's something great about that. I remember that story because I think there's something wonderful about somebody that's willing to just get out there and really try to do their best and at least assure people that we're all in this together.
By the way, have you read all the stories about George W. Bush and how he was so in tune to the threat of pandemics?
Yeah, he was the one making people he read the 1918 flu book and he started making everyone in his cabinet start working on pandemic responses.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, the thing is, if you point out what happened, people say people think you're trying to criticize them or bash them. I'm not. I always say that at any given time on the president's desk, so to speak, there's probably 1,000 different warnings of if you don't do this, this terrible thing could happen. And then when one of them happens, you look back to it and say, here it is. You see, you didn't do it. We told you to do this. It was the same way with Hillary and Benghazi. The State Department had hundreds of hot spots around the world they were worried about. Sure enough, Benghazi flares up and they say, you see, she ignored the warnings in Benghazi. So with that preface, Obama, let this go too. He let this go. Trump let it go.
I guess the important thing is looking at them now and how Trump is reacting now with information, and it's not any better.
Yeah. Well, no, he's listen, I believe that he's actually backing into mostly the decisions that Fauci and Birx are dictating, because if he didn't, they wouldn't stand for it. They're doctors. So, and that's like, I'm sure that on the big stuff, he's doing exactly what they tell him to do. He spouts off, blah, 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 blah. But they're not going to cover for him. Fauci's not going to cover for him. I don't.
My favorite tweet was Trump tweeted, we need to bring back sports because I'm sick of watching these 14-year-old games. And then he went, I mean, I don't really have time to watch a lot of them. I just watch a little and then I go back. And it's like, he realized halfway through the tweet that he was admitting that he was watching sports during this, but he had the wherewithal to be like, I don't watch it all the time, but not the wherewithal to just not send the tweet.
That is wonderful. I'm happy to tell that story. That is a great way to end. So listen, Raanan, I'm sorry that you won't be performing at the Cellar.
I died for my principles, much like Fauci.
But you're always welcome. You're always welcome to come argue politics with me.
That's all I've ever wanted.
And Emmy, I'm sorry that the patriarchy didn't encourage more speech from you. But you know how men are just men are the worst.
Emmy's look said a lot.
What are you going to say to me, Noam? What are you going to say?
I'd say that Emmy has a case. Emmy's going to claim Emmy's going to claim digital rape after this ordeal.
It's always good to see you, man.
Forgive us, Emmy. Okay, good night, everybody. Good night.
Thank you all. Good to see you.